What's good, YouTube? It's your boy Baz, and I'm here with the 1% Sports Network, where we highlight the athletes who bring heart, hustle, and dedication. I'm talking about the grinders, the 1% better everyday guys, and today is our first episode of the Legends of the Yard HBCU Spotlight segment. Today we're going to be focusing on none other than the legendary, well, some may know him as the ugly jump shot on 2K. You know, the one where they kick the legs back? Some may know him as the sixth man on the last time the Knicks won the championship. So y'all know that's been a minute ago. He a legend. And some may know him as Fall Bag Baby. Yeah, you know him now. We highlighting none other than the legendary Dr. Dick Barnett. He was the first legend to come out of Gary, Indiana, even before Michael Jackson and them. Fun fact about Barnett is he found an early love for basketball even before he had a real ball and hoop. When I tell you young boy was really just shooting with socks over a clothesline and shooting ping pong balls in the tin cups, like that was really how he got his early learning of basketball. No trainers like there are nowadays where the kids go into the trainer 5 times a day. Nah, he had ping pong ball in the cup like they do in college playing beer pong. That's how he really learned to hoop. As a kid, basketball really was the last thing on his mind though. Like I said, he grew up during the Great Depression. Family living paycheck to paycheck, no air, no hot water, no nothing. Pops was a steel worker and mom worked at the candy store. During those times, even as a kid, he had a job. He worked at the steel mill with Pops, and then he made deliveries and whatnot for Mom, so he was even helping out around the house. It wasn't no, oh, I'm gonna go outside and play the sport I love. It was, nah, even you gotta hustle, young boy. Once he got a little older, he would go to the Campbell Friendship House, where they had an actual basketball hoop, and they helped develop his skills a little, and that's where he got the unique fall back baby jump shot and the nickname. We'll go over that a little later. Once he became of age to go to high school, he went to Theodore Roosevelt High School in Gary, Indiana, a predominantly black school that had never won a state championship before. And peep this, like I said, the school had never won a state championship before, right? Well, 1955, he was in the state championship game. And peep this, you will never guess who he ended up playing against. When a lot of hoopers complain, oh, I never won a state championship because I had to play against such and such. Well, my guy had to play against none other than the Big O, Oscar Robertson. In 1955, Big O was hooping for Crispus Attucks High School. This meeting between Crispus Attucks and Theodore Roosevelt was the first time in Indiana high school basketball history that two predominantly black schools have met in the state championship game. Crispus Attucks and Oscar Robertson ended up winning the game. I'm not sure Big O had a triple-double. I couldn't come across the stats for the game, but history was made nonetheless, no matter what the stats read. Stuff of a movie, right? Two future legendary NBA players meeting in high school for a state championship game? Yeah, it sounds like a movie, right? Well, before Mr. Barnett had passed, he had said that they had been working on turning it into a movie. Since his passing, I'm not sure if it's still in the works or what's going on with it, but would definitely be an amazing thing to watch and a story that should be. I told y'all this was the Legends of the Yard HBCU Spotlight, right? So, of course, he went to a HBCU, and that HBCU being Tennessee State University, or what it was called when Barnett attended the Tennessee Agricultural and Industrial State Normal School. He was recruited to come play for the Tigers by the legendary Coach John McLendon. Now, I would be remiss in not doing my hoop educator job if I did not tell y'all who John B. McLendon Jr. is, because he is one of those guys when it comes to the sport of basketball. Here's a few quick hitters. He was the first African American coach to coach a predominantly white university. Boom, number 1. 2, he was the first African American coach to be a head coach in any professional sport. I mean, across all professional sports, he was the first black head coach. And listen to this. he was the pioneer of the fast break. So basically the way we actually like to watch basketball nowadays, not before how they used to play before him, like, yeah, he started that. So he is really a giant in this sport. There's so many more accolades I could list. I'll probably have to get to it in another video. But just as a little quick excerpt about him, he was really him when it comes to this coaching thing. But back to Dick Barnett and his time he spent being coached by Coach McLendon at Tennessee A&I. Oh yeah, and one more thing. While Coach McLendon was at Kansas, he learned the sport of basketball from this guy named James Naismith. Yeah, if you know anything about basketball, you might have heard of him. You know, maybe the guy who invented it, Hall of Fame named after him. So yeah, just a little bit more backstory. At Tennessee A&I, Dick Barnett came in killing. He immediately was the star player. His first nickname was Dick the Skull. There's a joke there, but I'm gonna leave it alone. But thankfully that nickname was short-lived because as his career went on at Tennessee State, he developed his nickname that stuck with him through his career, Fallback Baby. Because as soon as he would hit that jumper in your face, he would tell the defender, hey, fall back, baby. I don't care what nobody said. For you to cash that many times that they just start calling you that, you had to be killing. As for his actual basketball career there, they completely dominated. While he was at Tennessee State, they won 3 NAIA national titles. He was a 3-time All-American. His stats were absolutely insane. They go as follows. He scored 3,209 points while he was there, which was an average of 23.6 a game, pulled in 11.6 rebounds a game, was the first basketball program to win 3 consecutive national titles, was the only jersey retired in Tennessee A&I history, and he was the national title game MVP in 58 and 59. After such an illustrious career, he entered the NBA draft after 3 seasons, not staying for his 4th, which was still revolutionary back then because most people stayed for all 4 years. Everything wasn't as cut and dry regarding the NBA and being drafted as it was then as it is now. The ABA added some complications and drafting was a little different. There was a lot more rounds. So his pro career started off a little differently than maybe some great players. Barnett was drafted to the Syracuse Nationals in 1959, where he played till 1961. He was the first round pick, 4th overall in the 1959 NBA draft, and played for 2 seasons there while he was their 6th man. In the next year, after he didn't renew his contract with the Nationals, he played for the Cleveland Pipers in the ABL. Now, this is sort of an interesting story and a little tidbit for his career, too. I'm going to break this down. So after a successful first 2 seasons with the Syracuse Nationals, where his rookie year he averaged 12.4 points, and his second year upped that to 16.9 points, he was catching the eyes of a lot of people in the basketball world. And one of those eyes he caught was by the owner of the Cleveland Pipers. And you may recognize this name from another sport. The owner was none other than George Steinbrenner. Yes, you heard me correctly. The former owner of the New York Yankees. The same guy who recognized the talents of Derek Jeter or the talents of Mariano Rivera. Well, one of the first stars he recognized was the legendary Dick Barnett. And guess who the coach was of this Cleveland Pipers team in 1961? I'll give you a second. Yup, John McLendon. So, he won all those championships with McLendon in college. McLendon came to the Pipers. Barnett did 2 years in Syracuse, joined Cleveland, joined McLendon, and they did what? Ended up winning the championship,
cementing them as one of the best coach and player duos during that time. Kind of undeniable.
But not everything was all roses after they won the championship. On December 21st, the Nationals, the Syracuse Nationals that he played for in the NBA before he moved to the ABL, they won a court order against the Cleveland Pipers, barring him from playing that season in the American Basketball League. So basically what happened is The NBA saw how successful Dick Barnett and Coach McLendon were for the Cleveland Pipers, didn't like that, thought it was bringing too much attention to a rival league, put in a court order against the Pipers saying basically, hey, we own this guy's rights. And the court granted it, so he couldn't play for Cleveland anymore, had to go back to Syracuse Nationals, and yeah, no longer could play with his college coach, Coach McLendon. So 9 months after they sued Barnett's former team, the Cleveland Pipers, so they could have him only play for them, they sold his rights to the Los Angeles Lakers in September of 1962. But he didn't go for a small amount of change at the time. They sold his rights to the Lakers for $35,000, which doesn't seem like anything now with today's modern NBA money, but at the time was the highest player for money transaction in league history. So OG was on Shea time and before Shea, something like that. On the Lakers, his role didn't change much from the Syracuse Nationals, seeing as he was the sixth man behind Hall of Famers like Elgin Baylor and Jerry West. He helped lead the Lakers to the West Division title after Jerry West had missed 27 games with a leg injury. If you know anything about old school basketball, I've just been name dropping a bunch of legendary names, and this is about to be no different. So once he got to the pros, I guess everyone wasn't as familiar with his game in the pros as they were in college, so he had lost the fallback baby moniker once he had got to the pros. But Lakers legendary announcer Chuck Hearn brought that nickname back to life. Seeing as he was killing and absolutely torching in Jerry West's absence, Chuck Hearn couldn't help but notice, yo, this guy is killing them, hitting everything in their face and falling back. What you mean? What they call him in college? Oh, fallback baby? Yeah, Chuck Hearn brought the nickname back, fallback baby. Over his 3-year tenure with the Lakers, Barnett averaged 16.8 points, 3 rebounds, and 2.7 assists. Solid numbers even back then for a sixth man. Early in the 65 season, Barnett was traded to the Knicks, where he would go on to make his name. That trade in exchange for Bob Boozer, no relation to Carlos and the rest of them, I already checked. I was hoping I'd find another little cool loophole, but no. Yeah, and cash considerations. His first season with the Knicks proved to be his most successful in his career, where he averaged 23.1 a game. 23 a game, 23 a night. He was finally the number one scoring option and showing it. All of that production produced his first ever All-Star game nod. So the 1968 All-Star game was one for the books. First and foremost, it was held in the home city, New York, Madison Square Garden, MSG. He got to play in front of the home crowd for his only and first All-Star game. The East was coached by Alex Hannum, and the West, Coach Bill Sharman. MVP of the game ended up being Hal Greer, and the West team included legends like Jerry West, Elgin Baylor, Zelmo Beatty, Lenny Wilkins, Walt Hazzard, Bob Boozer, Archie Clark, Nate Thurman. And the East was absolutely stacked with talent like Willis Reed, Wilt Chamberlain, Bill Russell, John Havlicek, Oscar Robertson, Jerry Lucas, Dave Bing, Hal Greer, Sam Jones, Dave DeBusschere. To make the team when the East was absolutely stacked with talent like that was all the more impressive. And as expected, the East absolutely ran away with the game, winning 144 to 124. Barnett really went on to make his name with the New York Knicks, playing most of his career games there. He was a reliable player while playing with the Knicks, playing in at least 79 games in 6 out of his 9 seasons with the Knicks. In this HBCU spotlight, I have to mention that Barnett was a part of the Black College Trio for the New York Knicks, which included him, Willis Reed, and Earl the Pearl Monroe, who all 3 went to historically black colleges and universities, which was amazingly impressive because you can barely get an NBA player from an HBCU nowadays, and to think a championship team was composed of 3 HBCU stars. Is amazing just to think about, and part of the reason why it's important to highlight these stories. The trio went on to beat the Lakers in both the 1970 championship and then again in the 1973 championship. And in 1963, just before the season started, Dick Barnett was let go by the Knicks and eventually retired. For his amazing play and help bringing those 2 championships to the city, Barnett's jersey was retired in 1990, where they hung that number 12 up in the rafters of Madison Square Garden. As a Knick, Barnett scored over 15,000 points and had that All-Star Game appearance like we mentioned. But more importantly, was the last time the Knicks had brought a championship home to MSG. Coming up during the era Barnett came up in, he was much more than just a basketball player. You can imagine the political climate and everything going on regarding segregation and Jim Crow laws that were happening during that time. So the advocacy that Barnett had off the court was just as important as his exploits on the court. I feel obligated to talk about the immense impact Dick Barnett had when it came to the civil rights movement. While Barnett was in college, he experienced many different things regarding civil rights. He had to deal with segregation, as he frequently encountered at hotels, gas stations, and while traveling through the South, his team would regularly be subject to the rules and laws of segregation, where they couldn't use water fountains, couldn't go to certain restaurants. They real life dealt with these things during that time. Imagine you're in college and you see all of the advantages that are afforded to college athletes of modern days. This team was the 3-time defending national college champions, and they weren't allowed to eat at restaurants. They weren't allowed to drink from certain water fountains. So to think that these guys would be looked at as stars, as icons nowadays, couldn't even enjoy the same pleasures of their counterparts of a different race. Barnett also attended sit-ins while he was in college. After winning the national championship, he went to a Nashville lunch counter and participated in a sit-in to protest against segregated restaurants. When I started this video, I made sure to introduce him as Dr. Dick Barnett. Throughout his entire life, he was always a huge advocate to emphasize the importance of education and social justices for equalities for those of us all around the world. And Dr. Barnett is a legend of the yard, not only because he just attended a HBCU, but because he always advocated and promoted HBCUs throughout his life. He led a campaign to recognize his school, Tennessee A&I, in the 3 national championships that they had won as the first HBCU team to win the national title, and he was leading a charge to help them be inducted into the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame, which eventually he was successful in, and they had eventually been inducted. As a youth, you can imagine that young black students weren't provided the best education, especially coming up through the public school ranks. Barnett was never much of a fan of school growing up, but as he got older, went through his career, eventually got bachelor's, master's, and doctorate. He is always a proponent of education. He was always speaking, telling kids that education is the way out. And with that devotion to education, after his career, he was an advocate for it through writing, speaking engagements, and he even founded his own publishing imprint. His degrees include obtaining his bachelor's from Cal Poly while he was playing for the Lakers, because like I said, he ended up leaving Tennessee A&I after 3 years to go pro. He eventually got his master's in public administration from NYU while playing for the Knicks. And then he received his doctorate from Fordham University in 1991 in education. And not only did he educate himself, he also dedicated himself to educating others, where he taught at St. John's University sport management classes from 03 to 07. Post-career, he also established the Dr. Richard Barnett Foundation, which provides scholarships to high school students from underserved communities in New York City, and the foundation also sponsors career events to help those same students get career prospects and job placements. Dr. Barnett also believed in all the amazing things young people could achieve with just a little bit of encouragement, which is why he dedicated so much of his time post-playing career and during his playing career to help those in underserved communities. As I was doing all of my research about Dr. Barnett, one thing stood out to me, and it was a powerful quote that he said, and such a fitting quote for this network and what we're trying to do in the future. He said, "Nourish your dream every single day." And that's kind of something that I've always lived by, and why I wanted to start this channel, 1% Sports Network, because you always want to set a new standard every single day, get better by 1% every single day. So thank you, Dr. Dick Barnett, for those wise words. Thank you for your contributions to the game, and thank you for being a legend on the HBCU's yard. For all of his amazing achievements as a basketball player, Dr. Barnett was inducted into the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame in 2024, and he passed in 2025 in Largo, Florida, shortly after being inducted. It is a beautiful thing to know that he was there and able to get inducted while he was still here with us. And that's it for our first legend of the yard, none other than Dr. Richard Barnett, Tennessee A&I or Tennessee State legend, however you want to call it. Just call him a legend. And if you would like to know a little bit more about Barnett and the time he spent at Tennessee A&I playing for the Tigers, he was the subject of a 2022 documentary called The Dream Whisperer, which talks about that time. Any fan of HBCU sports or just sports or basketball in general, definitely worth a watch. If you're still here with me, thank you for the watch. We definitely appreciate your view. I'm going to be looking to upload a lot more. Like I said, here at 1% Sports, we're a new YouTube channel just trying to bring you the stories of the underrated, underappreciated athletes and give them their just due. If you have any suggestions on any topics, athletes, or anything you'd like to see on the channel, leave a comment. Also, like and give a subscription. We really appreciate it. We're a new YouTube channel just trying to build this platform. Thanks for sticking it out with me again. I'll catch you next time. Yeah.